I might start a podcast. We should do a podcast.
Yeah. Let's start a podcast.
All right,
Why not?
I think we're recording right now. What's going on? Episode 3 of Might Start a Podcast. How you doing, Kat?
I am doing absolutely amazing. I feel great.
Wait, I want Kat, because this is you. You have a relationship, a more of a relationship than I do with this guy. I want you to introduce our guest.
Our guest is a filmmaker, a producer, a singer, songwriter. He's literally a jack of all trades. It's Alexi. Alexi is our third guest, or our second guest, right?
Yeah, second guest. What's going on, Alexi? How you feeling, brother?
I'm well. I'm trying to hold it down during the quarantine. We all are, but thanks for having me. This is a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up with the red room?
Yeah, he's on Mars right now. He's on the red planet.
He's just trying to prove that he's way more artistic than we are. What's going
Bro,
on?
I just want everything to be a scene, bro. I want everything to be a mise en scene, bro. It's a vibe. Everything's got to be a vibe.
Who's your favorite? Okay, so you're a film. You do film. I know you do music, and we'll get into that. But you also do films. Who's your favorite film director?
Oh man, this is too tough. I mean, I need like 5. I'd say Michael Mann, David Fincher, Martin Scorsese.
Okay, heard of one of those 3.
Yeah, Jean-Luc Godard, if you want to talk more of the French. Yeah. It's just too extensive, bro. I can't get into it. It's a lot.
Wait, what was that last? What's the movie from that last guy? That's a French director?
A French director in the 60s, in the 50s and 60s, there was a big movement in Europe, and in France specifically, called the French New Wave. And he was one of the pioneers of what they call the French New Wave movement. And it was a style of film. It was an intention of filmmaking. It was a vibe. As we would say, a lot of the work that you see done today in music videos, commercials, it's all been ripped and lifted from that era. And
wow.
Unbeknownst to a lot of the viewers, they don't know that all that stuff was done in the 50s and 60s.
Damn.
So it's kind of repeating it. I mean, history repeats, right? Art repeats itself.
Art does repeat itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta ask, you being a film director, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's a movie that I saw it, and it felt like a drug trip the entire time I was watching it, and I felt like I was in another world. And it's like, that's how you know that dude's a great director, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
Tarantino. So and that's why I'm asking you about this, because this reminds me of like a scene of Kill Bill. Your room right now, it's very Tarantino-esque. So what did you think about that movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? And Kat, Kat, have you seen that movie?
I have seen the movie, and
yeah.
Well, I'm not going to have the in-depth analysis that I know Alexi's going to have, but I have seen the movie, and interestingly enough, I was watching scenes from that movie just like 2 nights ago. Because Joe Rogan had a guest on his podcast that was like, wrote a book about the Manson murders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back and watch some of these scenes in Once Upon a Time and just kind of reflect on it. And it's I underrated it at first. I didn't like it that much. But as I've rewatched some of the scenes, it's just like every Tarantino movie. It's pretty epic.
Yeah. What'd you think, Alexi?
I actually saw it 3 times in theaters.
Wow.
Yeah. Just because, like, knowing and doing film and being in love with a medium like that, it's such a double-edged sword, because, you always want to be consuming and you want to like have a very broad spectrum. And so you watch a lot of shit, but usually the first time around when you watch something, you're very like aware. I'm too aware of stuff when I watch it. I'm like, okay, so that kind of light was like planted right here. Okay. Like, how did they do this scene? Like, and that you kind of miss a lot of the nuances and the subtleties, especially in a film, a Tarantino film. So I usually have to watch something a couple times, because like I said, the first pass through is like, let me analyze and figure out how this was logistically done.
Right.
And the second time I watch it, it's why was it done?
Wow.
Why? You know what I mean? And that's the how versus why that all artists must sort of answer, questioning.
Yeah.
So I watched it 3 times in theaters. There are a ton of like subtleties and nuances, and the writing is insane. It's an accurate depiction and portrayal of, you know, life as an artist, as an actor in LA, I would imagine, I think.
Yeah.
Set in another era, which made it even, you know, crazier with the sort of historical background of it. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. And just the
What
fact that they had they like shut down Sunset Boulevard in those shots where they like changed all the businesses to make it look like it was in the 60s. It's like you have to be anybody but Tarantino isn't being able to pull that shit off. Like the amount of money that must have.
Yeah, man, it's very like the production design, the set design, all that shit was extremely, you know, done to a T, as most of his everything is. So, yeah, that was amazing.
Murders and deaths and killings in Tarantino movies are so out there, bro.
Just over the top, dude.
Yeah, it's very visually stimulating and appealing to see. To be honest with you, it's just like he gives zero hoots about what you're gonna think about the gore and the violence in his movies, and I'm gonna put it in there.
Right. It's funny because stand-up comedians get in trouble, or just anybody else gets in trouble for talking about things that violent, but like film directors can do whatever they want as long as they're calling it art, you know? Yeah. And this guy is like, I mean, and then the sound effects that he puts in during the killings, it just like sticks with you.
But that goes back to Alfred Hitchcock, you know, and that goes back to Alfred Hitchcock, and Alfred Hitchcock brings that back to silent film, because there are many interviews that I've read with Alfred Hitchcock where he talks about his inspiration and how back when he started, we as in the industry was exiting vaudeville and silent films. So his world was, I'm only seeing black and white silent movies, and I want to imagine what that sounds like.
Wow.
So someone like him, he was an extremely, especially for his time, dude, was an extremely technical and visceral artist and filmmaker. That's why his films stand the test of time. You watch Vertigo, it's like, dude, it's like there's so much going on in that, technically, visually, auditorily, the editing. It's like, because he had to imagine a world. He grew up in a world where there was no sound cut to picture.
Right.
You know, so he let his imagination run wild on what he could do. But Tarantino draws a lot of inspiration from Hitchcock.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, Alexi, how many films, I mean, ballpark figure, how many films do you think you've seen or watched, and how many different kinds of directors do you draw inspiration from? Because a lot of people just know, you know, Tarantino, Scorsese, whoever, but like what kind of can you take us in a little bit to like some of the films you've seen and some of the like directors that we might not know about? I mean, you mentioned one guy already, the French guy or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot, man. It's a rabbit hole. You know, it's definitely a rabbit hole to get down, the same way you can get down the rabbit hole in any medium. You know, personally, I am very much into that 60s French New Wave, Italian Renaissance, kind of before that, genres where, I mean, films were not so plot driven, and they were really, really driven by character dynamic and sort of their intention, and they were a little bit more existential. There were films that I mean, I've seen brilliant films where there were just two people, the whole film, just 2 or 3 people, and then they're kind of just discussing, examining, you know, life, why, relationships, why, love, why, and you kind of like get into the nitty gritty and figure out how these characters all play a role in that world that you create. I really, really connect with films like that, more so than a lot of the films you see today, because the industry has shifted, obviously, since the French New Wave. It's like, you know, the reason for making movies has changed. You know, the reason for making movies in Hollywood as we know it is to turn a fast buck, turn a big buck.
Totally,
you know?
totally.
And art doesn't always make it that far, you know? The art that I'm talking about, the types of films that I'm talking about. But to answer Kat, like Fellini's an Italian director, Jean-Luc Godard, obviously. There's a French-Argentine director, Gaspar Noé, who I'm sure you guys have probably heard of. He did a film called Climax 2 years ago. He did a film called Irreversible. He's only done like 5 films. I've seen them all, and they're very gruesome. They're very visceral and everything. He did Enter the Void. Have you guys ever seen Enter the Void?
No.
You guys need to check out his stuff,
dude. I'm basic as fuck when it comes to movies. I'm just
he's
I'm
a great
comedy,
example.
rom-com.
But I love that too. he's a great example of like someone who truly will hold no reservations and really give zero fucks when it comes to what he's trying to say and how he says it. Like when I saw
Right.
Climax in theater, I saw multiple people leave the theater because it was too intense.
Wow.
Yeah, no, his films are like they're intense, especially his older work. He just holds nothing back. If there's a rape scene, it's going to be 10 minutes long, very uncomfortable, like because he wants to
Right.
a certain emotion in a certain way. So, man, the list just keeps going. I'm also, on the contrary, I'm also very into like John Hughes.
Uh-huh.
You know, and also like those like I grew up on that, growing up on like John Hughes and Chris Columbus, and Home Alone and like Harry Potter and Mrs. Doubtfire. Like there's a very broad spectrum. It's just kind of how you feel, but I see the artistry in all of it, and
Right.
all that inspires me.
So you do films and you also do music videos. You did the music video Smash Again with Catalyst. And
Correct.
You've done the most recent one, which was amazing. I want to know, because like I'm obviously an artist on the other side of things. What's it like what's like the director rapper relationship? What's that like when and how hard is it to like deal with different personalities? Because I'm sure rappers and artists just have very polarizing personalities and sometimes it can be difficult to work with. What's your experience with working with rappers and artists?
It's usually not always very pleasant, man. I mean,
wow,
I feel like,
really?
yeah. I mean, I've done like 100+ music videos.
Holy shit!
I've done 100+ from artists of all sizes. I mean, in my early 20s to mid 20s, I was sort of focusing on that like full time, and sort of the route that I was in was doing a lot of hip hop stuff, and I've done hip hop stuff for local Bay Area legends all the way to bigger record label stuff.
Right.
I've sort of seen a good amount of
Can you take us? That leads me to a good thing I wanted to ask you. Can you take us through briefly some of the artists that you've worked with and shot videos for?
Yeah, I'm because I don't even know. Like I knew you were legit, but now I'm like, God damn, look, who am I talking to right now?
So I think probably from like 18 or like 19 to 25, I did a lot of like Bay Area stuff.
Cool.
I did, especially when I was like 18, like college, like 18, 19, 20, 21. There's a lot of like just hustling stuff in like East Oakland, like Vallejo. I've done, when I was a kid starting out, it was just like, small budgets, couple grand, come out, shoot us for, a day, whatever. And I've done stuff, with, Mr. Fab, Too Short, Beta Weta, Hieroglyphics,
wow.
Yeah. And then sort of departed a little bit from that, went to a couple different genres, a couple different styles, worked with, commissioners, music video reps and labels and everything. And budgets got a little bit bigger. I, started writing and writing on bigger projects, getting bigger projects, T.I., Ludacris, Outkast,
wow.
G-Eazy, guys like that. And then things just like started to change, man. The industry just became more mobile.
Yeah.
The need for music videos kind of slowed down. I was kind of not feeling them as much. Like I didn't break through to like the absolute like highest level of it, where there are guys getting massive budgets, making a ton of money, and having to work, constantly going at that. And I also didn't find that my best work was in that arena either.
Totally.
For me, it was I was always more into like the narrative and the story of things, you know. And that's why I love like narrative filmmaking, film. That's what really makes me tick. So, but yeah, that's sort of a little bit my background in the music video world.
Words.
How many, so you've, as transferring over to films, how many like short films and projects of that nature have you kind of done?
I've done a good amount. I mean, obviously film school, I did a good amount in film school.
So where did you go to
film school? Yeah. So I started at SF State, and then
cool.
2 years into SF State, I transferred to USC in LA. And I don't know, there was a bunch done for classes, a bunch of films and projects done for class. And then I would always be shooting shit on the side. Because like, I felt like that's where all the learning took place. Like
totally.
You don't learn you learn principle, and you learn like, sort of approach and some fundamental and technique in class a little bit, but like you really, I mean, how do you learn to ride a bike? You scrape your fucking knee.
Yeah.
And you fall down and you fall down and then you learn like, okay, I gotta mount it like this. I gotta like ride at this speed. I don't tip over. It's like you learn in the field, and the same shit
Right.
you learn in the field. So I kind of was picking up on that. I'm like, I have like an instinct, I have an itch to get out and just pick up a camera and like shoot shit, because I'm not gonna like shoot shit when my ass is in the chair in a classroom. It's like you're only gonna pick up so much. So I don't know. I'd say short films, I don't know, a couple dozen.
Wow.
You know, yeah. I mean, it should be more, but I feel I'm pretty happy with the amount that I've cranked out, you know, but I always want to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you the type of director or artist that like every time you put something out, you're like, God damn it, you always like point out the flaws. You're like, damn it, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Or do you put it out and you're like, damn, I don't know how I'm going to top myself. That was amazing.
Shit. I mean, I feel like with some maturity and with some growth, I've veered further away from the part of me and the artist in me that would beat myself up over the flaws, you know?
Right.
And I've just grown to accept that, you know, if art is a human-made construct, is a human-made thing, right?
Yeah.
And humans are naturally flawed.
Right.
Therefore, there's going to be flaws in your work, and you got to sort of nut up and like get over that, you know?
Totally.
And that, if you don't, you're going to be unhappy. It's going to lead to problems personally, mentally, artistically, you know, which I've been through. So I feel like just accepting like there are going to be flaws here, but let's look at this as there's no end. There's no real end zone. The way I see it is like the end zone is your grave, but you have all this catalog of work you could leave behind. Now you could choose to really fucking sprint as hard as you can and crank out and learn and grow, which is the side that I'm on. Or you can be super, super passive and more methodical. I want to take so much time. I want to really plan everything out. I'm okay with putting one thing out a year.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that, but some people are.
And that's something that I was actually talking to Kat about this yesterday. You said something when you were on an Instagram live chat the other day when I was on your live, and I was like, hey, because you're a producer as well, and I'm, you know, trying to get better at producing. So I'm just a student, and I ask as many questions as I can. So I was asking you, I was like, what's more important than what's more important? Is it the kick or the snare when you're producing? And then you turn it into this whole rant about, dude, all that matters is that you're finishing a song. If you finish a song and put it out, that's really, you could talk about the kick and the snare and the mixing all you want.
Yeah.
If you're not finishing a song, what does it matter? So that's something that is really, why do you think artists, because so many artists just like don't finish songs and they have half finished songs. What do you think is like the Achilles heel?
I think it's the illusion of perfection and the getting too into the technicalities and the craft. Because I think like a craft, you can to some degree perfect a craft.
Totally.
100%. Like when it comes to how Porsche makes cars and how the engines are manufactured and how the wood grain on the dash, you can perfect the craft of those sorts of things, right? But the artistry behind it, the intent, the reason, the why, you know, the humanized touch that has flaws, you can't fucking perfect that.
You can't.
So I feel like people are divided. They're like, I'm an artist, but I'm too into the craft. And what happens is you play this ping pong game, this tug of war game where you're like, I have so much to say. I want to do all this stuff. I want to talk about my life. I want to put this work out. But it's at the same time, it doesn't sound like Kendrick Lamar's, and it doesn't bang as hard as Kendrick Lamar's, and it's not like whatever. And then what happens is you're just stuck in the middle, and it's a year went by. Okay, okay, I'm gonna make new stuff because maybe my old stuff wasn't good enough. And then they reach that point where they want to put it out. And it's like the ping pong game again, right? And then another year goes by. You know, so I look at it as like I just come to terms just saying fuck all that. If I'm operating out of instinct, I know I'm doing my best work, and I'm going to grow. My next work, the work I do a year from now will be better than the work I'm making now. Like, accept the growth, accept that, but also accept that just because something isn't technically, you know, 100% sound and perfect, it doesn't mean that you're not putting out effective material.
Right.
That's
Right.
what it comes
And what
down
is
to.
and that's subjective. Like, what is sounding perfect? Just because, like,
What is it? Yeah.
There's a standard, but there's music with very soft drums and no 808s at all that I listen to on full blast in my car. So,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and yeah, what I learned is, like, what I do recently, the method I started picking up is, like, if I start a song and I don't finish that song in 2 days, then it was just me telling myself that I didn't believe in the song enough, and then I'm just gonna move on.
Maybe, and that's really good, Ethan. That's really good that you acknowledge that, because
Right.
you know your reaction. You know that there's a physical reaction, right? That may be in your subconscious, but your behavior by not finishing it is you basically telling yourself, all right, I'm not really feeling it. Let me move on. That's great
Right.
that you have that answer, that you can acknowledge that. It's like you're a cut above from what a lot of people are stuck in between. So I think ultimately to answer that question, it's the strive for perfection, which is sort of a paradoxically flawed concept. You know what I mean? Because it really is just at the end of the day, to me, it's a hindrance. It's a hindrance. And once you can accept your flaws and you can accept that you have a lot of growth, that you're on square one, you will put shit out.
Right.
When you have ego involved, where you're like, I gotta live up to the past stuff I put out, you're operating from a flawed sort of system, and that'll prevent you from putting shit out.
Right. Kat, you've done a lot of work with Alexi. What has been how did you guys kind of like first link up? I know it's probably a Bay Area situation through mutual friends, but Kat, how did you meet Alexi and start doing music with him?
Well, the first time that I ever met Alexi was through Jaff. And I think some argument after they shot together came up over gas money.
Yeah.
Turned into some big situation, which is one of those things that it happened in the moment. But as we've all gotten older, I mean, even within a year later, it's funny. But that was an interesting little story to how we met. And then, I was impressed with Alexi's work and the way he did things. And then over my time in LA, me and Alexi would meet up and we'd work on a song or we'd work on something. And I was very much victim to being around a different circle of people with different mentalities and different mind states. And those, a lot of the people I was around at the time when I was first meeting up with Alexi in LA had their own successes going on. And we had Alien Family going on. And we had, we were getting a lot of plays on, on different platforms. And our album got a lot of downloads and these good things were happening. And you kind of start to overthink it. It's like, you have a baby and Alexi said you learned to ride a bike by scraping your knee. It's like we didn't want to scrape our knees anymore. So what happened basically was I got to a point where I got in such a cycle of overthinking that I met up with Alexi, and we were both sort of fed up in our own ways of kind of like where we were in our lives in different ways. And he said to me, "I'm down to do work with you, but I want to put it out."
Yeah.
He didn't really, Alexi, you never really gave me an ultimatum, Alexi. You never really looked at me and were like, I'm not working with you unless we put it out. But I sensed the aura, and the energy that I'm doing this, but it needs to be for something. And then, for me, the first kind of defining moment was, being fed up with so much in my life and everything. Alexi just put on this beat that I liked. And
what was the song?
They Don't Like You. And him and Jaff were like, freestyle, just freestyle, just say. And I ended up going on this crazy rant freestyle where I just going nuts. I can't even explain what was going through my mind. I was getting it all out. And we sent it to Jaff, and he tweaked a few things and mixed it in a way where it essentially just was the original freestyle. And from that point on, when we made that song, I kind of let go of a lot of everything needs to be perfect. And since then, Alexi's instilled a lot of that in me, and we've just been consistently releasing. But that's
I have to say I've seen an immense amount of growth from Kat as a person and as an artist. And I'm extremely, I don't know if I ever have the chance, man, to really tell you, but I'm extremely proud of who you have become and where you're going from when we first started really working together tough, which was not even a year ago.
Yeah.
It's coming up on a year in May or June.
Yeah.
But dude, what he's done in a year
Yeah, it's amazing.
Then like, and the mindset, I saw like, if I could speak frankly here, man, it's like I saw like a wounded like little puppy, and I was like, he has so much fucking talent, but like he has so much talent, but if he could just get out of his head and
Yeah.
walk away from the wounds that he has, and you know, whatever problems and environment he's around, this is a real big hit right here. And I was like, it just needs to be nonstop work and change the mindset, Mamba mentality, and like just get in the bulldozer and put the fucking gas on and go. And that's really, at the end of the day, if you're an independent artist, you need to fucking do that.
Yeah.
I'm like taking that to the grave. You need to get in the bulldozer and go, because if you don't, no one will. And it ends there.
I want to say to like any artist that's watching this, obviously, you know, E-Money, you, Alexi, we all have a lot of fans and followers of ours that are artists. And I want to say that, like, for me, at the very beginning of getting into my thing, I scapegoated the people around me as the reason of why I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing. And what I've come to realize over time is it's not the people around you. If you're asking people for advice all the time, if you're asking people for what do I need to do, or should I do this, or how does this, you know, if you don't just believe in what you're doing to the fullest, and you believe in it, when it's something that you enjoy listening to, when you can put the headphones on when you're on the bus to work, or on the jog or the workout, or hitting the gym or whatever, if you put on the stuff that you're making and you really, really, truly love it, then you'll find a way to get it out there to the best of its ability.
Totally.
So don't scapegoat the people around you. If you're asking for opinions, you're asking to overthink.
Yeah.
You know,
there's only so many externalities that'll actually affect you. I don't care if fucking Donald Trump is president. I don't care if we're in a coronavirus lockdown. Like, these are, don't make your shit. Like, the president, whoever it is, isn't going to affect the way you sound, the way your shit bangs, the way you're whatever trying to achieve. Not at all. But people, the easy thing to do, Ethan and Kat, the easy thing to do that a lot of people, specifically artists, do is they point fingers.
Oh, yeah.
I get this done because of that. Oh, no, I didn't put it out because of the mix. Man, fuck the manager, man. The label, man, they didn't let me put shit. It's like, all you're doing is you're picking at the low-hanging fruit around you and playing victim, versus saying, all right, fuck all that. I'm going to give myself this date where I'm putting all this out. It's like, and you really streamline it. But it's comfortable to play victim. It's comfortable to point at the quick things.
Yeah.
To blame on someone else. No one wants to own up. Artists
That's
don't want to own up and say, I'm fucking whack.
Right.
I blame everyone else for my performance.
Dude, that's so funny, because you know when you watch like interviews with artists who like haven't done shit in 10 years, and it's like, where are they now? They maybe had 3 or 4 good years. They all blame the label or people around them. I've never heard an interview with one of those artists that said, you know what, I just really dropped the ball, I screwed up. They're all blaming these other people in their life. So that's a good point. I mean,
100%.
And now more than ever, like, it's so easy to make your own song in your bedroom. You could get shit I mean, you guys record stuff in your bedroom, and it sounds like if I heard that song in the year 2008, I'd be like, God, they must have spent $20,000 to get that song produced. But
Appreciate
now,
that. Wow.
Yeah, but it's just a testament to the time.
JJP vocals, man.
JJP vocals.
No, but I mean, Alexi, I think what I've also learned about a lot of people around me that I've worked with is you kind of got to be, you know, you got to find the things that make your art sound the way you want it to sound. Like, Alexi, you have like a whole vocal chain that you work with, and like you know, like you don't have a normal kind of setup. You know what I mean? So when we record, it sounds. When I will say, when I record with Alexi, it sounds better than I record with myself. I wish sometimes that I cared more about the equipment that I was buying. Like, I'm going to get this type of processor for my mic, or this kind of interface or whatever. I don't even know the proper terminology, but you have that little box, Alexi. What is that? The box that you have that the preamp go into? The preamp. Yeah, there it is. I'm such an idiot. I don't even know that term, but like, I need to we need to, as artists, like, find the things that like make you the most inspired to work on your stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I told that to a kid in Cat in one of your streams. He asked a question. It was something about like, I'm going to paraphrase, but it was something about like, he was having a hard time finding like a team that wanted to work with him. And he was like, he directed it at me. He was like, Alexi, how do you find like a team in a practical sense that would like want to collaborate and work with me. And I said, dude, number one thing I can advise, I don't have all the answers, but I would imagine the number one thing I would advise you to do, and any artist to do, I don't care what you're making, is to find your superpower. I know it sounds like really cliche to say that, and I'm getting that advice from one of my best friends, Victor Goshfather Tapia, who told me that advice a couple years ago. He's like, dude, like, what's your superpower? Fine. And I was like, fuck. Like, like, you need to look at yourself like you're in like you're fighting a villain. The world is the villain. Right? Like, how do you fight back? What's your superpower?
Or like when you're a Pokemon in battle, it's like you could be a 3. Like if you're an artist, it's like move. Yeah, what's your hit move? It's like you're 3. And for me, I feel like maybe it's like punchlines. That's kind of like my superpower. With Kat, it might be your voice and your flow. I mean, the thing is, not saying that we're not good at other things, but that's just what we're better at than most people.
And yo, I think that's a massive like foundation for any artist to start on, is like really audit yourself and be like, what's my superpower? Like, what's gonna make people want to get in the room with me? Like, what's my stock value? What leverage do I have? You know what I mean? Like, start thinking of it in terms of a literal business, dude. Use business terminology to audit yourself as an artist. And I think that is the hack, to be real. And I wish I found it out 10 years ago.
Yeah,
but
man.
That journey led me to my understanding of it now. And I'm really happy that I had the people around me to help me find that out.
Did either of you guys catch any of the episodes of they aired the Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls documentary, The Last Dance today? It premiered on ESPN. Did either of you guys see the first 2 episodes that came out tonight?
No, but I saw what people were saying on it on Twitter, and I guess the Jerry Krause slander is real.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We won't get too deep into it or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm excited. I'm driving all the way to my parents' house tomorrow just to watch that because
what I will say about it is it speaks directly to what we're talking about, especially what you're saying, Alexi. Is just the Chicago Bulls. Everybody on that team needed to know their role. You know, Jordan's the GOAT. Pippen's the guy who's sacrificing the most. You know what I mean? Dennis Rodman does this. Kerr does this. Everybody knew their roles, and that
they all had a hit move. They all had a hit.
So the kid who asked you that question, it's find people on your team who don't care so much about having the full spotlight. You're not always going to have the spotlight.
Right. It's like, would you rather play a small part on something huge, or would you rather play a big part on something small that nobody cares about? And a lot of people want to play big parts on things that are going to get swept under the rug.
Which leads me to another concept that has broken up a lot of really good partnerships in many artists' lives, which is the debate of percentages.
Oh my God.
I'm like, bro, you have 900 fucking people that follow you, and you're gonna end relationships with people who you need because they want 5% more on the master. Yeah. Give them the 5%, Dick. They're helping you finish your shit. Like, give them the 5. People fight over percentages, and I've been there before, and that all relates back to ego and insecurity.
Wait, people fight over percentages? People who like really don't stream that well or sell a lot
100%. 100%. In film, when it comes to writing scripts, when it comes to fucking writing songs.
Oh my God.
I mean, I can't even begin to get into the conversations that I've been in and the bad blood that has unfortunately been shed due to egos over lost percentages. Like, and then the irony behind it all is that project never even comes out.
Yeah, because of these arguments.
This shit. I'm like, it doesn't even come out at the end of the day. So it's like you wanna do this to spite someone to keep your extra 5%, to act like you have the bigger dick, but you look like the wackest person at the end of the day because your product doesn't even come out. Like, the case in point here is my advice on that front is to be liberal with that stuff. If people are going to work and you need other people's superpowers to sort of like finish your vision, give them the percentage, keep those people happy to work and deliver.
Totally. And that was this is actually, the band the Smashing Pumpkins. You know what happened with them? Yeah, of course.
I don't know what happened with them. What happened?
Well, it's very interesting because Billy Corgan was the lead singer, and he pretty much did most of the heavy lifting for that band. He played guitar.
Yeah.
He was the lead singer, and he wrote all the lyrics too. Like he wrote everything. So when it came down to percentages, the manager was like, look, so technically because you wrote everything, you deserve a higher percentage, but I would highly recommend you to keep everybody else happy that you take the same percentage as your drummer or your bass player. And Billy Corgan was like, why the fuck would I do that? I'm doing way more work than them. They could go, I'm going to get the percentage that I'm owed, that I deserve. And they, and then that caused a huge rift in the band. And they really, they already are a great band, but they could have been even more legendary. But ever since then, and they even, while they were touring together, they wouldn't even really talk, and they had just horrible camaraderie because the drummer deserved that. It's like, first of all, if you're a drummer, and I don't want to throw shade, but if you're a drummer or a bass player, let's be real. Fucking Billy Corgan's superpower is way better than the drummers. Not saying that, but it's like Michael Jordan, of course, deserves to get paid more than Dennis Rodman, right? I mean,
this is where data hurts a lot of people and it offends people. But the numbers don't lie. The stats don't lie. That's what I really love about sports, dude.
Yeah.
Sports, I really wish there was a way, like, we can all model sort of everything we do after like sports statistics, because those numbers don't fucking lie. They're very objective. And I feel the way I approach a lot of my workflow is from that objective standpoint of like being able to separate, mind and man from the art. It's like you have the instinct and the urge to create something and the itch. Great. You take that chutzpah, you go and you make something. And then it's like, once it's the bricks are laid out and it's sort of like I've gotten into a good 70-60% point, I step back, I put my business hat on, and I'm like,
right,
let me look at this now like I'm Henry Ford.
Wow.
And let me put this through the fucking Ford system on how to crank out cars. Henry Ford didn't make perfect cars, dude. That wasn't his intention. But for 100 fucking some odd years, that business has been thriving off of a massive production and scale. So it's like it's the tug of war again of like being artist and then being businessman. What I love about sports is just like it's objective. It's like, if Kawhi's putting up the most numbers for his team that season, like he's gonna get the most play time. He's gonna see the floor the most.
This is crazy that we're talking about this, because the second episode of The Last Dance talks all about that and the rifts that caused in the Bulls team. Did you guys know that at a certain point, like during the Bulls championship run, I think it was during maybe the second championship or something, I don't know for sure, Scottie Pippen was not just the sixth highest paid player on that team. He was the 122nd highest paid player in the NBA. You're talking about the guy who at that time, arguably to many people, was like the Klay Thompson, like
the best defender in the league.
Best defender in the league. Absolutely an amazing player. 122nd best paid player in the NBA. And then you know what they said? You know who the 122nd best paid player in the NBA is today? Andre Roberson. Played for Oklahoma City. So that's like, even though Pippen didn't want to sacrifice, and even though he did probably want to, but even though it eventually got to him where he's like, man, I'm like in the top 3 players in the league and I'm 122nd paid. It did create a rift on the team, but at the end of the day, look at how many championships they've won.
Right.
And I've gotten to the point in my music career where I've even told Alexi this, like, I don't even care about percentages. If we're selling out shows, if we're rocking it for the fans, if our art is out there and we're making the best shit that we can make, fuck the money for now. We've lived poor for long enough.
Seriously, cares? I've been screwed my whole life by the industry. I don't care about getting screwed a couple more years. And like what happened with the Backstreet Boys too was crazy. How like they were, I think it's like no matter what, playing the long game is better than playing the short game. And playing the long game is developing like a brand that people are gonna love forever, creating lifelong fans, obviously. And the Backstreet Boys. The craziest shit. Have you seen the documentary on the Backstreet Boys? And it's called like the boy band Con or whatever, where like their manager, the Backstreet Boys and the NSYNC man, they both had the same manager, and the manager was basically paying these guys minimum wage, below minimum wage, if you like account all the hours that they were putting into like studio time, rehearsing, performing. And these were like 16, 17, 18-year-old kids.
Yeah.
They weren't getting paid shit. And meanwhile, this their manager was just getting, obviously, just rolling in dough, getting rich. And then they had to take them to court and finally get out of the contract. And they weren't even, it took them years for them to finally start like getting the money. But could you imagine like selling out like stadiums and not getting like really any of that money? It's just like, but now they're all fucking rich and they're good. So like they played the long game, and it's just wild.
Isn't J Code, our friend J Code is like one of those guys. It's either an NSYNC guy or a Backstreet Boy guy.
I think it's a Backstreet.
Yeah, one of those guys is making country music now, and our friend is helping produce it and release it for him.
Okay.
Oh, that's amazing. Which guy is it? Is it Joey Fatone? No, Backstreet Boy.
It was another guy. It was one of the other guys.
Is it Chris? Is it Chris Kirkpatrick? Is it Brian? It can't be Nick Carter because Nick Carter went down the deep end. Is it Howie? It's Howie, isn't it?
One of those guys. I don't know.
I wish I knew. The song was dope, and I was just like, man, it was like a country, it was like a country crossover. You know what I mean? Like some kind of form of country, but it's amazing people's paths, and where it takes them. But that guy was like super famous for being like that fat manager guy for all.
Oh yeah, Lou Pearlman.
Lou Pearlman, like that guy.
Wow.
He's under the he was under the vibe of like, oh, you want to be famous? Okay, you can be famous. You're going to get minimum wage. Oh, you don't want to? Oh, you want more money? Then you're not going to be famous. And when you have that power, it's like, what are those guys?
That guy fucked more kids than R. Kelly with those deals.
but that's also the Bill Belichick way of operating, not the what you said, but the what Kat said. The money versus the prestige.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why they said in all the NFL offseason interviews, they're like, people who had the inside scoop were like, yo, I've played for the Patriots. Tom Brady's leaving this season. No, he's never going to leave the Patriots. No. Like, they're like, look, Bill Belichick doesn't give a shit who you are. Right? He doesn't give a shit. You could be Tom Brady.
And they're not breaking the bank on you. They're not going to break the bank on you.
Or the same conversation. Yeah, Tom, I can't, this is my Belichick impression. Tom, I can't, give you as much money as you probably deserve. So I don't know what you're going to do. And Tom Brady's like, yo, everything I've done for you, fuck you. And he's out. But Belichick at the end of the day is like, hey, I think watching the Patriots and Tom Brady is going to be the most exciting storyline of the NFL. It's going to be how good is Tom Brady without Belichick and how good is Belichick without Tom Brady.
Now that we're on the topic, that's going to be exciting. Now that we're on the topic of sports, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. E-Money, did you ever play any contact sports growing up?
Yeah, I played football for 11 years.
Okay, great. Kat, did you play any contact sports growing up?
I mean, if you call basketball the contact sport, yeah.
The coaches weren't tough enough. Ethan, what do you think? Ethan, I think about this a lot, man.
Yeah.
With that discipline and upbringing and conditioning,
right?
How much of that have you brought into your adult life, professionally too?
Football. Yeah, football was just such a different beast than basketball or any other sports that I played, because you're kind of like it's more like you're putting your life on the line and you're risking a lot just for your team and for the greater good. But honestly, I think it's like every single time I work out or every time I'm working on a song, I do, as crazy as it sounds, I do hear like my youth football coaches in my head, which
me too,
and who were just constantly like, what are you doing? Like just telling me to never give up. And I don't work out a lot, but when I do work out, I always go 110%. And that's the main thing that they taught me. It's like, if you're going to,
as an artist, do you bring that with you, the same discipline and mentality?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, if you're going to do something, go all out with it. There's no use. If you're going to half-ass anything, then why are you even doing it in the first place?
Yeah. I've been thinking about it a lot, because I can tell if someone has played a contact sport or not in their life. I could tell just from talking to them. A lot of the times I could tell. I mean, like, did this person get the shit beaten out of them yesterday? I can sort of gauge that. And
right. Like, is this person stupid? Okay, they probably had a lot of concussions.
No. I mean, I wasn't even thinking that. I'm thinking from a straight up, can you follow through? Can you respond to dude, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
How many people cannot respond to a text message?
Oh my God.
How many people cannot respond to a fucking email? they want to call themselves an artist? Are you going to think that person's going to finish a song or finish anything?
I know.
So that's why it's like, I've been thinking so much, and I've noticed a trend of like the people who have gone through a certain amount of mental and physical sort of discipline and toughness. Like they develop, like they bring that in every area of their life, you know. And it's really interesting to me. I've noticed the people who have played contact sports and they become artists, get into artistry, it's like they carry that discipline with them, and that mentality then translates to the art that they make. Whether the art's effective or good or not, that's not what I'm talking about. But the workflow of, I have this in my mind, I want to make it this tangible thing or put it online. It's like they have the foresight to follow through with it.
Right.
Whereas people who never went through sort of a mental and physical conditioning like that, not all, but I've noticed a little bit of a discrepancy.
Wow.
I've really picked up on that.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, kids who I played football with are, well, a lot of them are still like living in their high school glory days and they work at like shitty 9-to-5s, but I'm sure they're like, you know, they're the best at answering emails at their shitty 9-to-5s, you know, and a lot of them aren't artists. But the thing is, you brought up a good point, how important being an artist or being somebody who's trying to, like, how important communication is, and just and how easy it is to respond to a text. And Kat, we've talked about this before, how like how many, we don't name names, but how many people you reach out to that just won't even, that'll just like, that you're doing business with or that you have personal relationships with, who just like won't even respond back with a, hey man, too busy right now, you know?
Yeah. What I say is let that person fall on their fucking face, because there's no room for people like that in like the real world.
Wow.
No room.
Yeah.
I was working with one kid, and he was from somewhere else, like from a different country. He came to LA. One of the first people he ever met was me. I was driving Uber, and he played me some of his music and I liked it. And you know, we had this really cool story of like, we met through an Uber and we made a whole album together.
Yeah.
And you know, I always thought, even up until, you know, 7 months ago, like, man, this person's probably going to be in my life forever. They'd already been in my life for a few years. We've been making shit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, people come into LA and they settle in a little bit and they meet this person and they meet that person. And all of a sudden, like, the texts don't get answered. It doesn't get responded to. It honestly ruined our, not just our working relationship. And we have great songs together that probably will never come out now.
Wow.
But it ruined our working relationship and possibly ruined our friendship, you know, and things can be patched up and rekindled and whatever. But it's, you know, for me, one of the most disrespectful things to do towards someone that you're working with is not respond to a text or a call. And there's a way to like, be like, hey man, my bad, I didn't get back to you. And obviously there's an amount of time where it's okay. But when things just constantly don't get responded to, it shows that people don't have the same like energy or care for what you're doing as a collective.
Well, and it just seems like it seems like they don't care about you as a person when they're not, because it really hurts. I don't want to sound like a snowflake here, but it hurts my feelings when somebody doesn't respond to one of my text messages. Like, and it's interesting how like when you go from being an artist, when you're an artist and somebody else is an artist, you guys have this mutual, but then when it becomes like, when it becomes a situation where you're like providing an opportunity, or you like kind of like are asking for a favor from the artist, then it's a totally different, then you just get people who don't even respond, who just leave you on red. When I was doing the Apartment 5 sessions, I obviously reached out to a lot of people that I had known over the last 10 years, developed strong relationships with, who, and they're starting to, you know, they're starting to buzz and do well, but like the least that they could do is just say, hey man, can't do it this Sunday, but you know, nice hearing from you. To be left on scene on an Instagram message, it's like, it's pretty, pretty heartbreaking. But
and those are always the first people that, if something good happens for you, you get a bunch of followers and fans and have a big hit song out, those are always the first people who are going to try and sneakily weasel their way back in. Hey, really like what you've been doing lately, man. Good job. And it's like, for me, loyalty and squad, like, is very, very important in what you're doing.
Right.
We all know Marky Basie.
Yeah.
And I was watching a live that he was on the other day,
Mhm.
and they were asking him about like, you know, what really led you to getting more success when you ventured off as a solo artist in LA. And he
Mhm.
said something that made me feel really happy with what I've done over the last 7 months. And he said, as opposed to caring so much more about the art that I was putting out and how good the music was and the albums were and all that shit, I cared more about who I was doing it with,
Right.
and the family of people that I was building that I can call family,
Mm.
and say, these are the people in my connected circle who I work with. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be all the time, but these are the
Mhm.
people consistently I can call on that are part of my inner circle of success. And
Right.
for me, I've more and more found that in my last few years.
Right.
And, you know, you're more of like a lone wolf, E-Money, wouldn't you say? Like, do you have people that you really consistently work with that are like,
Um, it's weird. I don't really work with anybody musically, but but what I do is like I have people that I like send songs and send stuff that I'm working on. I have like maybe a select 5-10 people, and they always give really good feedback. So I like consider them to be like on my team, because that's the thing. Those people like LBZ, Thrilla K, you, these people, you know, I'll give feedback on their music, and we're kind of like on this journey together. And just because we're not doing music together doesn't mean we're not on the same team, if
right,
that makes
right,
any sense. So
For sure, yeah.
but it's really important to have those people in your life, you know.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do you guys, so the guys, all the songs that you guys have done together, what is is there one certain song that like sticks out that was like the session was like super fun and you were like, oh my God, I'm so happy to be here?
I'll let you answer first.
Well, the cool thing about working with Alexi is that we're very, you know, we're very cut and dry honest with each other, you know, and that doesn't mean that we get along 110% of the time, but it also, it's everything's towards the driving goal of wanting to continue to release and wanting to continue to put the best that we can out there. So for us, you know, I'd say something that I've worked on with Alexi that I was like super, super excited about and thrilled about is, one is Smash Again, obviously.
Yeah.
As you know, that was just a song that Alexi had done. Basically, he didn't really have to put me on it. He had a beat, and a really good beat and a really good hook,
Oh,
and
wow.
kind of gifted to me to like put some verses on this. And I think I did a great job with the verses. And then that followed up with a video. And I remember watching that video and being like, this is like another level for me. So Smash Again. And then we have an unreleased song called James Harden that I'm really excited about, because I like it. I think it's very unique and cool. And that's one of the biggest debates me and Alexi have, is unique versus what is not unique. You know what I mean?
Right.
So those are two things. But I mean, Alexi, we've had a lot of good sessions, man. I think that they've usually been very, very productive and positive and good. So
Yeah.
No, I was talking to Kat about this, I think last night or the night before. The video that you guys did together where you're just playing piano and Kat's just rapping on the condenser microphone. I think it was your song Community Guidelines, but it was like an MTV Unplugged acoustic version of it.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever thought about like making songs, because you do have a lot of bangers, they're hard hitters, making songs with just, you know, a limited amount of instruments, maybe just a piano and just Kat rapping? Because I think that's when Kat's voice sounds the best, over like just a piano.
I'm open to it. One thing that I said on, again, Kat's Live the other night about like style, and there's a lot of people, a lot of artists are sort of confined to their past sort of identity of style. Like, oh man, if I'm known for making turn up music, like I can't make an acoustic version. I'm like, says fucking who? Like, who are you? Like, who? Like, what makes you think that? So I'm personally, I'm always like, if I'm feeling it, if I'm in that moment, if I'm in that mode, I'll do it. If it comes from an instinctual place, I'll do any sound. I'll do anything. So to answer your question, yes, when it's probably rainy outside, and it's that kind of vibe, when we get to that rain tickling on the window, I've made a lot of acoustic music actually on my piano when it's been raining, and I'm like, for some reason, it makes me want to make that type of sound. So I think we could do renditions of songs that we've done that are, have our bass and drum heavy, and strip it all and redo a acoustic rendition.
Dude, isn't that crazy that like the climate of the city you're in, like impacts the music that you're making? I never thought about that, but like LA music, it never rains in LA, maybe like 5 times a year, they say. LA music is just party, turn up music, like the G-Funk era, and then like the SoCal rock. It's just like, major chords and happy music. And then Seattle, the grunge movement.
Seattle for a year.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, man, I wonder how much his surroundings influenced Kurt Cobain to make the kind of shit that he made.
It had to do with the weather. Everybody's depressed in Seattle. Kurt Cobain wasn't the only depressed guy. He's one of many of the same. And I think that's why Kurt Cobain like spoke to that Seattle depression, which ended up being a global thing. But
my mom moved from the Bay Area to Seattle, and I asked her, I said, "Hey mom, how you doing? She said, it's fucking depressing here."
Really?
Yeah.
Have you been to Seattle?
I haven't been yet. But I'm gonna go soon. But I want to get back to the question you asked earlier, because it's a good question. I'm just curious as someone who works with Alexi. Alexi, what's something that we've done that you were super juiced on?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know if I could name one thing, man. I will say, as of like recently though, we did an EP called Stay Home, which was spawned because of coronavirus and because of the quarantine. And I am very affected by my environment and I draw a lot of inspiration from where I'm around, the lighting that I'm in, you know what I mean? The weather outside, what's going on in global headline news. Like when something like a quarantine happens and everyone is confined and everyone has to self-isolate, there's a narrative behind that in my mind. In my mind, I'm like, okay, how do we as artists draw inspiration and further a conversation with that? A lot of people, a lot of artists that I know are just like, oh, fuck it, we can just go sit on our dicks and just like play video games and like get fat. And that's an excuse to not make shit, right? Like the way I think it was the opposite. I was like, that was a really fun process for me in when Kat came over one day, right at the beginning of the quarantine. And we made a song based on this idea of being quarantined. And then one song became 2, and then it was just like, fuck it, let's crank out an entire EP.
Wow.
In 3 days. And we did. And we did. And for me,
that's
I love
crazy.
The process, man. I love the journey. I love the process. For me, it's like, it's crazy, but it's not. And to anyone listening, like everyone who's listening to this, who's a musician, can do it. Everyone can do it. It's all just like, dude, it's like the launch date is the playoff game, right? It's like, you want to be Kobe, right? And like, I'm someone who abandons perfection. And I brought it up in a stream once where someone's like, well, dude, you talk a lot about Kobe. Like for someone who's not a perfectionist, like Kobe was a perfectionist. And I was like, oh, the difference was Kobe actually showed up to the fucking game and performed. Yeah. So it's like, you can sit in your room and like work on a mix and try to get everything great. But like the game is the real world. The game is pressing release upload date on DistroKid. That's showing up to the game. So like, that's what I live for. That's my superpower, is showing up to the game and actually tying up the shoes and waiting for the buzzer beater,
Yes.
Where most people, they get afraid to even get to that point. They practice. You work on your golf swing, you work on your stroke, but you don't show up to the fucking game and you die and no one cares.
Yeah.
So for me, the real question, to answer the question, the last great memory I had was when we made a whole EP in 72 hours and we actually shipped it off. That to me was such a fun process. And the project has flaws, brother. Don't get me wrong. There are flaws, but the shit is done.
No, and it sounds dope. I told Kat that like I'm not like a big fan of like raps about the coronavirus just because people are dying. That being said, I think sonically the album was like a huge step up for you guys. And I think just everything you guys have done has been like it's you've just kind of like reached a new level of musicianship.
I played Ethan. Ethan's got a new album coming out and I love it. And we listened to that. And then we also listened to
Zoom Call.
I played him Zoom Call and Lysol today.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Bro, amazing.
Man, thank you. Yeah, we found an artist named Lil Dad that we're excited to be working with. And yeah, he's gonna be
by the way, Ethan's driving to the Bay tomorrow, so I might be making another trip, man. And who knows? Maybe we'll crank out another. Crank out another little something, man. Who knows? Who knows where this road will
We
lead?
need to get some vocal stems from Lil Dad first, but we'll see. You know.
Yeah.
No, Ethan, I heard your a couple. I mean, I heard a song that Cat played on his live off yours, man. It sounds like you've really gotten to a point. You sound super, super comfortable and
Thanks,
super
man.
yeah, just very well rounded, man, in your artistry. I can hear it.
Thanks,
So,
bro. It means a
You're
lot coming
making,
from you.
you're making songs that sound like who you are as a person.
Like you.
Right.
That's number one, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And like a lot of it, dude, it's just been hard, and Kat could speak to this too, but like, and you know, like the team backpack, coming up in the team backpack, like that being like where I got my initial notoriety. It just felt like every single time I was making a song, I was like, if this isn't as hard as I was spitting in team backpack, the fans are going to hate this. So, and then I would put shit out that I loved, and then there would every single song there would be one comment, what happened to that team backpack flow? And it still happens because so this album I think was like the first time that I completely let go of that, and I said, look, if you guys want E-Money Team Backpack Cypher shit, then type in E-Money Team Backpack on YouTube.
Bravo.
And there's a lot of shit there, you know.
Bravo.
But,
Same thing for any big artist, man. There was always that shit talking part of an audience. Oh, I miss the Slim Shady Eminem. Oh, I miss the Reasonable Doubt Jay-Z. I miss the 80 Kendrick. Bro, it's a journey. We evolve as people, right?
Seriously.
Like, artists evolve. Like, listeners and artists need to accept that.
Right.
It's an evolution. We're in a constant state of moving. It's like what you make today isn't going to sound the same as what you made 5 years ago. And what you make 5 years from now is not going to probably sound the same as what you make now.
100%.
There will be an identity and
100%.
sort of a style that will be existent.
Right. You know, okay, there's something that I want to pick your guys' brain about, because you guys release a lot of music and it's awesome to see it. Once a month, it's a song. What holds me back and what holds a lot of people back from releasing music, and I don't think I think they're afraid to say it, is because they're afraid of not getting the response that they want and the feeling.
Response from who? Your fucking 10 fans? Like that? That's my answer. Like, you're nothing. Response from who? Like, you need to look at yourself like you're a cockroach at the bottom of a fucking sewer. You're a rat at the bottom of a sewer. What if you're a rat at the bottom of a sewer? You're always hungry, right? You're gonna eat fucking crumbs.
Right.
And an artist needs to look at themselves. Until you're Drake, you're a rat at the bottom of the sewer. You're a cockroach. You need to be able to go flatten yourself, go under doors, get bigger when you need to eat a smaller insect. You need to be malleable. Until you're Drake.
So it's something that holds me back as far as responses, like, and this, I should not be thinking this, but it's just what I think. It's like when I release anything musically on Instagram, where people could tell, I'm just like, people that I've known throughout my life, I'm just scared that they have this thought of, why is E-Money still, it's pretty sad that E-Money's still chasing music, you know? And I don't know. I don't know why I think that, but I care so much about what like people I went to fucking high school with think about me.
And you know what? That's a valid fear.
Yeah.
I will say that's a valid fear, because I feel like all of us, I'm speaking for all of us in this podcast, feel a sense of that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Like every artist goes through that. I really think the ones who prevail are the ones that prevail. It's not that they don't have that voice. That there, it's definitely there.
Right.
But you overlook it, and that's how you prevail. And that's what I've been training myself. It's like one of the last episodes of HBO Ballers. They're interviewing. It's like a segment where they're interviewing The Rock's character, and the opening line of the fucking episode is, "Not giving a fuck takes practice."
Wow.
Oh, everyone listening, tat it on your fucking forehead. Not giving a fuck takes practice.
Oh my God, you're great. You're a great guest, dude. You're giving us. You were spitting facts.
I think also like that voice that you're talking about, because I feel the same thing. I'm like, man, people saw me doing this and that, like same thing as you. I've been doing this for so long, it hasn't really gone that big yet.
Yeah.
It's also you gotta just use it as fuel, you know?
Right.
Just like, hey, there's nothing that's gonna stop me tomorrow from making a song that changes my life.
Right.
Or anything. And
or what's the alternative? The alternative is you could not do it. Like, it's as easy as that. It's like, we live in a binary. It's a black and white world, brother. It's
Right.
like, no one has a gun to your head saying you must do this.
Right.
You know, if you have the instinct to do it though, then it's on you. But you can also not do it. So it's like, there's fear and all insecurities, or just don't do it.
Right. And there's it's just funny how like you never like people who are actually putting out art themselves and putting themselves out there and letting themselves be vulnerable for the world. Those people are never the ones talking shit or judging other people who are doing the same thing. It's always the people who just lead normal lives, who aren't really taking risks. Those are the ones who have the judgment towards people like us. So that's another thing that we need to remember.
Yeah.
But it's like, why do we let those people have so much power over us? The people who don't do shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of validity in that, dude. That's a true statement.
Yeah.
True statement.
So, I don't know, man. Is there anything? This has been a really fun conversation, man. And I think a lot of people.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Last things that I want to. Is there any last thing I want to ask or say? As of right now, no, man. I know that I'm gonna keep going. I know that Alexi's gonna keep going. I think we all need to. And there's a lot of beauty in the fear of this art, this life as an artist. Just finding beauty in the fear. Oh yeah, I want to talk about also. I almost died yesterday in the car with E-Money, so that happened as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, me and Kat we broke the social distance rules. I'm sorry, sue us or whatever. Hey, but karma hit Kat in the fucking bit him in the ass, because listen to this. We drove like all the way to Rancho Cucamonga, which if anybody has seen Next Friday, they know.
Why?
We just wanted to get away. You know, we're fucking. That's why. We just wanted to get a room. So we went to Rancho Cucamonga, and then out of nowhere, Kat's in the car. He's like, I just got really lightheaded, man. And then I was like, okay, well that's I just take deep breaths, you'll be fine. I didn't think it was that serious. And then we like stop off at some like Mexican place, and then I get my food, and then he's out there dripping in sweat, just drenched. And I'm like, is this guy pulling a prank on me? Did he just like pour water on his face? Like, I've never seen. It was a cloudy, cold day, and this guy's dripping in sweat.
Scary, man. Scary shit, bro.
Yeah, and
it all leads to we never know how much time we have, man. Let's make the best of it. And I'm feeling better today, and yeah, I just got to take a little bit better care of myself. So everyone out there, take good care of yourself.
That's real.
Water, hydrate, and be safe,
I mean, the last time I saw somebody sweat that much, I was watching an episode of To Catch a Predator. So, I mean, it was serious.
I have a book recommendation. I wanted to bring something a little that everyone who's listening can pick up.
Sweet.
And enjoy. I figured this would be a nice token for my parting statements here.
Yeah.
There's a book that I read about twice a year, every 6 months. It's only 100 pages. And the book is called Art and Fear.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter. The thing is that it transcends mediums who it's speaking to. So I don't care if you're a rapper, if you're a producer, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a writer, if you're a woodworker, if you make fucking ceramics, it speaks to you. And it talks about the different stages of art making and the psychology of what every artist sort of goes through and feels, and the insecurities, and obviously it's in the title, Art and Fear.
Wow.
And it's called Observations on the Perils and Rewards of Art Making. So it'll speak to you, to everyone listening. And even if you're not an artist and you're trying to kickstart something, a company, I don't care if you make cookies, I don't care what it is. If you have an idea in your head and there's an output, an end result where you want to see it go, this is a book that'll get you through the journey and help you really be self-aware. And that's why I always have to read it every 6 months or so, just to sort of refresh my memory, get my instincts, get everything oiled up on how to stay productive and how to get out of your own way. Because ultimately
right.
that's the problem. That's a problem. That's the underlying problem for all of us, for every artist. It's you are in your own fucking way. You think you matter. You think your shit is good, right? You think you need more time. You think there's a perfect time to put shit out. It's all bullshit. And this book is what shaped my perspective and mentality on abandoning perfection. There's actually a whole chapter on why perfection is a toxin. And ever since I read this book, it was like, holy shit, like I see everything so differently now. Like it was like the clarity to be like, wow, this is the first step of getting out of my own way. So Art and Fear is a book everyone needs to read.
Wow.
Once a year minimum. And it'll break everything down. It'll help you be self-aware. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to you. It's like,
did you write this book? It sounds like you're selling it that hard.
Man, I'm just, bro, I might as well. That's how much it's impacted me, dude. That's how much it impacted me, dude. It talks about everything that I'm a big propagator of. And there's some great quotes in it and great approaches. And
have you ever thought about motivational speaking or like writing your own book?
I have more so on the speaking part, because I feel like I could be more powerful where everyone's breathing the same air in the same room. I feel like I can impact people more that way, or when it's more face to face. But yeah, I would love to do that someday. I really would love to get into that down the line, 5 years or something. I want to accomplish a bit more. And I want to feel like I'm at a point where I could walk away from my work for a little bit and focus on another purpose, focus on another cause. But yeah, I think about it a lot, actually.
And another thing before, because I actually wanted to talk about this because we have a mutual friend, my friend Ian Albrecht. Love the guy. He was one of the greatest guys.
Yeah.
We went to high school together. He's 2 years older, but he was the manager for a band, Radical Something, that you did a few music videos for, and you've done some videos for Loggy. And we were at a bar one time in Sonoma, and he was like, "Yeah, I see that your friend Catalyst is working with my friend Alexi. I go way back with Alexi." He was telling a story about how there's, I guess, one time when you were like supposed to be shooting a music video. This story might be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you were supposed to be shooting a music video for Radical Something. And then what happened was I think your dad found out that you got like a B+ in a class, and he like needed you to get all A's. So he wasn't letting you use the like your punishment was not being able to use the camera. So then Ian had to like go to your parents' house and try to get the camera.
Get it.
Is that what happened?
It was something, I mean, this was 10 plus years ago, but it sounds about right. I come from that kind of background. I think that's why I am the way I am, dude. Just because there was that sort of strict, approach to so much stuff,
Right.
And yeah, that's a pretty accurate story.
That's amazing, man.
Legend, man.
Amazing. I honestly wish sometimes I had more of that kick in the ass instilled in me, but my parents just let me skate by with C's and B's and were like, you need to do better, but they tried to take shit away from me. But
I was a bad student, dude. I mean, I was a shit student. Don't get me wrong.
Wow.
Like, this shit was really hard for me. School was extremely, extremely difficult for me. But
interesting. I would think that you would be I would think that you'd be like a straight A student.
Nah, man, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I'm not an analytical person. My mind works in different ways. In school, that sort of structure was actually very difficult for me. But one thing that I really do and will, I think, always appreciate was the conditioning that school gave me. The conditioning of you have to do something you don't want to do, and it has to be in next Monday. I don't give a fuck what your story is. I don't give a fuck if your dog died. I don't care if your girlfriend broke up with you.
Right.
That paper has to be in, or else you're gonna suffer.
That's a really good...
Bro, having that sort of like pressure on me from going to a Catholic grade school all the way to USC, like that's why I finish. I'll give a big part of my ability to finish to that sort of conditioning, and by playing sports and by having a coach saying like when I was a freshman, I always remember in like football, and it stopped. I stopped saying this. We were working on a new play or whatever. We'd be in doubles. It'd be hot as fuck outside. It'd be tired. It'd be on hour 9. We'd be working on a new play. Coach would say, "You got it?" And I'd say, "I'll try." And he'd just he'd grab me by the face mask and he'd go, "You're not trying, you're doing." Hit me on the head and I go, "Okay, I'm doing." And he'd come to me up, he's like, "You gonna do it?" And he's like, "I don't want to hear try. Let me do it." And I carry it, and like that shit got knocked into me and ingrained into me. So it's like, putting school aside, I was a bad student, but I did take away the discipline and work ethic from it.
Right. Totally, man.
there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us. This has been a lot of fun. We're definitely gonna have you back. We should do one because we could, yeah, art and fear. We could, because in the future it would be fun. I mean, I don't know. We could try it out to have like 6 people, to have like us 4, and then maybe Avi, and Jaff, and just see.
Oh, wow.
It might be a shit show, but I think it would be super
Oh.
fun.
Oh man, I mean, you guys are ready to get me. That's a recipe for me to get heated. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I mean,
the point.
if we ever get Jaff in here, it'd be fun, man. But Alexi, thanks for spending the time, bro. We really appreciate it.
This is
All
great.
right. Thank you guys. We will, yeah, we'll chat in the group chat, and
Okay.
thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.
Okay. Much love. Be safe.
Yes, sir.